Let's move this over here. Let's move this over here.
I don't understand why Tony doesn't like Velveeta mac and cheese.
I don't know either. That's kind of whack, to be honest.
It's amazing.
I mean, if he prefers something else, like that's a different thing. But like if he doesn't like Velveeta, that's weird, to be honest.
He does not like it.
See, I don't get that.
Hey, witches.
Hey, witches.
We're here today from the Midwest to talk about the 2016 B-grade movie, The Love Witch.
The Love Witch is a 2016 horror comedy, supposedly.
They had approximately a $500 budget. That's what my guess is.
I'm sure it was more than that. I didn't look up the budget, though.
I'm just, I think the only thing that this budget went towards was the medieval clothes.
Yeah, so like this movie takes place in modern day, but it has a 50s, 60s style aesthetic, and that was intentional. It was supposed to elicit like the vibes of the silver screen era.
I didn't catch on to that until when she picked up a cell phone.
Yeah, I didn't really know anything about this movie going into it, except for that like it was kind of iconic, and aesthetically, like, yes, big agree. But the movie itself, I'm underwhelmed. So if you haven't seen it, I'll just read the excerpt from IMDb. Elaine, a beautiful young witch, is determined to find a man to love her. In her Gothic Victorian apartment, she makes spells and potions and then picks up men and seduces them. However, her spells work too well, and she ends up with a string of hapless victims. When she finally meets the man of her dreams, her desperation to be loved will drive her to the brink of insanity and murder. With a visual style that pays tribute to the Technicolor thrillers of the 1970s, The Love Witch explores female fantasy and the repercussions of pathological narcissism.
Okay. Let's start out with the positives. Elaine's coat.
Ooh. Oh, the rainbow one?
Hell yeah.
Elaine has this black coat that's lined with rainbow stripes. Oh my God.
Yes.
I saw like a flash of it when she got out of her car in the beginning, and I was like, look at the coat.
Elaine and the Technicolor dream coat. What's
literally
Joseph and the amazing Technicolor dream coat?
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
I haven't either, but this time it's Elaine.
Yeah, and a lot of people describe this.
It's Technicolor.
A lot of people
dreamy.
A lot of people describe this movie as Technicolor. Like, I just kept, when I was looking at reviews, I kept seeing the word Technicolor pop up everywhere, fucking everywhere.
It sure is a dream coat. Let me. Ooh, I wish I had me one of those.
The very first note I wrote when watching the movie was, okay, immediately I fuck with this bitch's aesthetic.
Yes, agreed.
Very, yeah, very Lana Del Rey.
It was very 60s vibe.
Yeah. Elaine, the person who plays her is Samantha Robinson. And Elaine, like the whole vibe of the acting and the script is supposed to be very campy, which I'm glad, because if it wasn't supposed to be, I would have some notes.
Can we define campy real quick?
Yeah, I will look up an actual definition because I feel like if I try to define it,
I need to find my little pieces of notes.
Okay, here we go. Camp means deliberately exaggerated and theatrical in style, typically for humorous effect, or extravagantly flamboyant or affected in a way stereotypically associated with some gay men.
Okay. I can vibe with that.
So, yeah, it was supposed to be camp, and Elaine is very, like, her acting, I can't think of any other adjective to describe it except campy. Like, she's just very
aloof.
But the way she talks, like, no normal person talks like that.
It's fictional.
Exactly. It's how you would talk if you were like in 7th grade doing, like, being very confident in your first stage play or something. I think those are the vibes.
I have a picture of 7th grade me
in your first stage play.
Please
say yes. Sorry, guys, this is for patrons only.
Okay, back.
Yeah. One of the first lines she says in her inner monologue was, "My therapist says people are abused all over the world every day, much worse than me, and they do fine." And I wrote, no, bad therapist.
They
Bad
don't.
therapist. That's and that's not okay. Like it's not a no, that's not a competition. The fuck?
We need to talk about how people who are not patrons are not seeing how cute I look today. So
Yeah. Also, yeah, I don't know how much of this is gonna stay in. But yeah, if you're not a patron, like I look like actual like a raccoon, but Kaya looks adorable. Your hair looks great.
I,
No words.
I
That's just a fact. Okay, okay.
Elaine.
Elaine. I put wow,
She
she's an artist. Shocking.
she flees from California.
San Francisco? Question mark?
She flees from where she used to live because Jerry, her previous lover, died. And the police were trying to pin it on her. And she was like, I have to get out of here. And so she did. And she called up her friend and was like, hey, girl, I accidentally murdered my boo thing. And do you have a place for me to stay? And Barbara's like, yeah, girl, I got you. And Barbara's husband was like, bibbity bobbity boop, I got you.
Barbara's married to that guy?
I can only assume that they are, I really thought that they were married.
I have no idea.
They give that vibe.
Well,
They
like,
at least give a vibe that they are sleeping together.
oh, for sure. For sure they're sleeping together. I don't know if they're married though. But Barbara has a house and she also has another tenant named Patricia, named Trish. We call her Trish. And she's British and she has a husband named Richard. And when Elaine gets there,
Go to tea.
she meets Trish and they go to tea. And when they go to tea, at some point Trish shows Elaine her wedding ring and it's on the wrong hand and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And Elaine tells Trish that all you have to do to get love is give men what they want. And Trish says that it sounds like she's been brainwashed by the patriarchy. And Elaine counters that if you want love, you have to give love. I was like, okay, go off, I guess. And then Richard shows up to surprise Trish, and there's this weird thing going on. She's staring at Richard, and there's this piano sting, and they're zooming on her eyes, and they're zooming on his
Oh,
face.
the zooming. Oh, it was like early episodes of Criminal Minds. It was so bad.
Before I go any further, I do want to talk about the deeper message of the movie later. And I also got some notes from my friend Stevie, who actually originally suggested this movie that I want to talk about later, but we'll talk about that at like the end. But we're just going to keep going through the movie for now. But yeah, the weird thing happens with Elena and Richard and the zooming and the piano stings. And I don't know. There's some weird things stylistically in this movie for me.
So I have a note that says, genuinely, the only thing that made this a horror flick is the music.
There is one murder at the end, like an actual murder.
Okay, but
Intentional.
this was not a horror flick.
No, not at all. It was not horrific at all. And
There's no scares. It's not gory.
no.
It's like the witchcraft isn't even like sinister enough to be horror. Did we say this was a horror comedy or a horror romance?
It's a horror comedy, and like
I
that's what
don't
it's
think
advertised
it
as.
needs to be advertised as comedy either. I'm sorry, unless
It's not funny.
it's not.
Okay, wait. There is something that made me laugh, and we'll get to that as well. Because there's this guy that she meets, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. But that this one guy made me laugh a little bit. But like it was a little like it's like a breathing through the nose a little bit, not like a haha. It was like a my shoulders moved up and down. I wasn't like actually laughing.
It was like a chuckle. A
Right.
single chuckle, not like a series of chuckles. It was like a hmm.
Yeah, it wasn't a genuine like I was not guffawing at this movie and I was not scared of this movie. So like I don't think it was a horror or a comedy and definitely not a horror comedy. So like I don't know why it's at most it's a thriller, but like that's being very generous. After we see the weird thing with Richard and Elaine, we see her at home and she's doing some workings with some herbs and wax or soap, I'm not sure which. She's offering libations and prayers. She's like, I want a man to love me. Then we see her go to a shop to sell her goods. She makes soaps and candles and spell sachets.
Witch
and
bottles.
and witch bottles, yes. And her business is called Love Magic. And she says, all magic is using your will to get what you want. And I wrote down like facts, because that's what witchcraft is. She picks up this guy named
What's his
Wayne.
name? Wayne. I thought that was a good choice because Wayne and Elaine.
She picks him up smooth as hell, but like he is so ready to go to a remote place with her. And like I know that she's a woman and like we're talking about sexism and the patriarchy, but like instantly I'm like, are you like, have you never heard of stranger danger? You're going to a secondary remote location with this woman you just met.
If a guy tried to do that to me, I'd be like, police, where are you?
Like, what? He's so ready. He's fucking elated.
Thinking not with his head.
He has a house in the woods that he tells her about, and that's where she wants to go. Like, it's her idea for him to take her to his house in the woods where he goes to read and think. And he usually goes there alone, but she's like, please take me there, I'll cook us dinner. And Wayne is a freaking horn dog when they get there in the car. She makes him drink a flask of something she made. He drinks the whole thing.
Oh, it's strong.
Yeah, he drinks the whole thing. Yeah, anything he listens to her with no questioning. She cooks dinner. There's some conversation, and she says that he seems like he's a libertine. And I had to look up what that was. Did you know what that was?
Nope, did not look it up either.
A libertine is a person, especially a man, who behaves without moral principles or a sense of responsibility, especially in sexual matters.
You mean like Elaine?
Or Wayne. I mean, like, at first glance, you would think they're fucking made for each other, to be honest.
I didn't like him.
He made me laugh, but, like, I didn't like any of the men in this movie, frankly.
I like the last guy, Meadows.
Yeah,
whatever the hell his name was.
I feel iffy about him. I didn't like anyone in this movie. I didn't like anyone. I didn't like any of the characters.
I like the shop girl.
Oh, true. I liked her. We saw her like twice though. After they eat their dinner and drink their wine, Wayne is like, "Oh wow, I feel weird." And he was like, "What was in that drink?" And she drugged him, basically. There was devil's weed or Jimson root, which is a highly toxic hallucinogenic. It's a member of the nightshade family, and it's a commonly used ingredient in witches' flying ointment. He's tripping balls, and then the rainbow coat comes out. And he's like, oh my gosh, the black on, you're like that coat. You're dark and demure on the outside, and then on the inside, you're a rainbow. And he's like, who do you give the rainbow to? And she's like, I give the rainbow to you, Wayne. And then they have sex. Right? That's what happens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and her hair is tastefully over her nipples like the entire time, which I thought was funny.
But later in the movie, they were all dancing around in a circle, naked as heck. Every single body part of every other character. And I was just like, so Elaine gets modesty. But everybody else is just naked and afraid.
After they have sex, Wayne gets super emotional, and he's
like me.
Do you want me to put that in?
Yes. Because I was looking at his abandonment issues and I was like, that's familiar.
God. Okay, well, when you put it like that, fucking same.
I was like,
but like what he was saying, like what he first said at first was like, a woman's never given herself to me so freely before. And then he said, the thing that pissed me off, he said, the women who I'm attracted to aren't bright. And the women who are bright are homely, so I'm not attracted to them. And then he cried some more. And I wrote, cry me a river, Wayne, because like he was like genuinely like crying
Generalizing.
about,
He was generalizing women.
yes. Well, I hate when people call people homely. Like maybe that's a trigger for me. I don't know.
My mother's used that word before.
On a person?
Yes. I'm
Ugh.
not going to say who, just in case this somehow blows up and this woman finds out about
Yeah,
her
go ahead.
children being called homely. You know, you can take it out. I'm going to say it.
Patrons, you're getting the juice. So yeah, Wayne's crying. Oh, there's this moment the next like he goes to sleep. He's crying and he's crying for Elaine. She's minding her business in the living room downstairs or whatever. And then the next morning there's some breakfast cooking ASMR and I fucking love cooking ASMR. It's like such a short clip, but like I just
Eggs.
in the butter scraping on the toast. Love that shit. And he says, this is the part that made me laugh. She said, "Are you hungry?" And he said, "I don't know what I am." And I'm like, that's me. So she gives him breakfast. She leaves again. And he's like, "Don't leave me." And she's like, "I'll be right here. Don't worry." And then she leaves him. Then later on, she does the tarot reading. She pulls the Five of Cups, the Tower, and the Three of Swords. If you don't know, the Three of Swords is like everyone hates to see it. It's like a heartbreak card. It's like a bad thing happened card. Like just like no one likes it. Mostly it means heartbreak. So she sees it, she runs upstairs, and then he's dead.
He was wailing for her name, though.
True. And she ignored him.
I'm pretty sure she mentioned how pathetic he was as well.
In her inner monologue.
Yes.
While she's preparing for his funeral, his private funeral, she gets naked, she picks some flowers in his yard. She collects some things to create a witch bottle. So she puts urine in there, a used tampon, thyme or rosemary. I'm not sure which one.
Okay. Bring up my second note. Why is she just naked half the time?
Maybe
Like,
she's just more comfortable that way.
I mean, sure, that's fair. But she was outside in the woods where she could get like poison ivy or poison oak or literally poison any plant.
Yeah, that is very true.
Like,
Oh,
ma'am, she was naked in the kitchen. What if she forgot to turn off the stove and like, what if she burned herself? What if she accidentally threw a knife? I mean,
I
I
don't
know that a shirt wouldn't protect you from that, but like,
I don't have answers for you. But yeah, she was naked a lot. She's naked a lot in this movie, even not in sex scenes.
it was obscure.
I feel like for the witch bottle, they used the period blood. Well, they used the urine maybe for shock value because you don't have to use urine or period blood for that matter. The period blood, I could see them using it for like the purpose of the message and like feminism, patriarchy, man, woman, blah, blah, blah. I could see why they felt it necessary to use period blood for that reason. But the urine was not necessary to me because what a witch bottle is, it's used to protect. It's kind of used to capture any ill will or negative energy that's thrown at you. Generally, you would want to put a body part of yours in there, but like you could put your hair in there or a fingernail.
You could spit in it.
You could spit in it. I never thought of that.
You could blow your nose and throw the tissue in there.
Gross. Better than piss, I will say.
Mm.
But hey, by the way, if you use piss or blood in your practice, whatever, do you. I'm just saying.
She peed in that jar so gracefully, though.
They put like a sparkle filter on it.
Well, not that, but like we're going back to the doctor's office peeing cup. Like
It's hard.
it is. It gets all over my hands. She's done that before. She does that frequently.
I mean, she does supply witch bottles to the metaphysical store that she sells to, which I thought was interesting because, like, that's
Okay,
not how
now
witch bottles work.
I assume that they were partially pre-made. So like it had like the things that were not the personal items or the personal effects or whatever, like the rosemary or thyme or like whatever else needs to go in there, and like maybe the spell was already cast on it or something like that, and then all you like just add urine. Okay.
I okay, maybe, yeah. Yeah, because when they first say that, it's later in the movie that they say this, that we find out she supplies witch bottles to the store as well. And I mean, we see an example of one, and it doesn't look like it has pee or blood in it. So I don't know.
Just add urine.
Because the whole point is that the person who has the witch bottle, it has to have
A piece
an
of them.
item, yeah, a piece of you or whoever's in the house that lives there, because like that's who it's protecting. For example, if I made one, I would ideally have a piece of me and a piece of Andrew.
And a piece of Delphine and a piece of Eugene.
I mean, I could, yeah. I every time I see like a spare whisker or a spare cat claw, like because they like shed them, I have a little bag of them because I'm a fucking freak.
You're not the only one that does that. I know plenty of people that do that.
Oh, really? Like people who aren't witches?
I think so.
Wow, I love that for me.
I saw a post on social media about somebody who collects their cat's whiskers when they fall off, when they find them.
I love that.
And there were multiple people that commented on it saying, like, yeah, I do this too.
That makes me feel, but I will note that like I have it in a thing next to my desk, and every once in a while, like I'll find the little bags with them in them on the ground, and it's like they're trying to like get them back or something. The cats are. It's like, I'm sorry, like we can't put them back on.
I bet if you tried to put them back on, your cats would freak out.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, so she buried Wayne, puts the witch bottle on his grave with some
Doesn't
flowers.
break a single sweat.
Not even a little.
His grave. Girl looks gorgeous.
She's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Elaine goes home and Trish comes over and she has tea and cake with Elaine. And Trish is like, "Oh, I'm going to a business trip to Dallas." And she's like,
I
"Oh,
just
is
wanted to
Richard?"
say goodbye.
Yeah. And she's like, "Oh, is Richard coming with Trish's husband?" And she's like, "Oh no, Richard's just gonna be like holding down the fort or whatever." And Elaine is like, eyebrow raise, like subtly like, "Oh, Richard's not going with you." That goes somewhere. Elaine goes to the club, a cabaret is what they call it in some reviews.
Wait, I hate that Trish was like, I came to say goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I came to say goodbye indicates that you're leaving and not coming back.
Literally.
And she goes, nope, I'm just going to Texas.
But we had to set up that she wasn't going to be here, but Richard was. Otherwise, the audience wouldn't know. And Elaine wouldn't know, actually.
Here, how about this? I just wanted to swing by and say hello since I'm not going to be around for, a week.
Yeah. The verbiage definitely could have been changed.
But I guess that's part of the aesthetic. Weird.
Using weird verbiage.
Mm-hmm.
Elaine goes to the club. There's waitresses going to the bar trying to get drinks for patrons. And someone goes, "Did you see the papers? There's a body with a pentagram carved in his chest." And some rando is like, "It's them witches again." Elaine is there talking to Barbara, and she's like, "Can you believe it? The cops think I killed Jerry, my ex-husband."
And
Because she
Barbara's man is there.
So there's a priest. Oh yeah, his name is Gahan.
But it's spelled Gahan, which I would have pronounced Gahan.
Yeah, but it's pronounced Gahan. So like he comes up to Elaine and Barbara and he kisses Elaine's womb, her chest, and he tries to kiss her on the mouth, but Elaine turns her head, so he kisses her on the cheek.
But she does it like elegantly. She's just like,
Yes.
like one of them poodles in 101 Dalmatians. How they walk with their nose in the air.
Gahan is a fucking creep. I don't like him.
I don't think he fit with the vibe. Like I didn't think he was a creep and I didn't like dislike him. I just didn't he didn't like his look was not the look for that character.
Well, no, I think it's very true to life, to be honest. I have mixed feelings about the whole portrayal of witchcraft in this movie because, like, on one hand, they're trying to be like, oh, witchcraft isn't bad, like, it's fine. And then on the other hand, they say this, they have these messages that I feel weird about. So I wrote down some quotes from this scene with Gayan, Barbara, and Elaine. And Barbara and Gayan are talking to these twin sisters, Star and Moon, because they want to start teaching them about female sexuality and dancing and whatever.
And dance magic and sex magic.
Yeah. So Barbara says, because I wrote down 4 quotes. And the first one I wrote, and then I wrote no, 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 after each of the quotes. So the first one is the whole history of witchcraft is interwoven with the fear of female sexuality. They burned us at the stake because of the fear of the sexual feelings we elicited from them. Later, they used marriage to hold us in bondage and made us into servant whores and fantasy dolls, never asking what we wanted. And then I wrote, because, like, that's not entirely false. And then they said, we believe men and women are different and that true equality lies in that difference. No. And then they said, we need to teach men how to love us using ways they can understand. And then I wrote, no. And then they said, stand your ground, but always let the man feel like a man. And then I said, no. Part of me is like, I don't know if it's me not agreeing with this viewpoint or a general, like, ickiness. Like, I don't know if it gave me the ick because it should, or if it gave me the ick because, like, I just don't agree with it, or if it is just part of the movie and the writing for the movie, and, like, she's not trying to say anything about witchcraft. The writer, Anna Biller, that is. So, I don't know. And the characters portray sex magic as, like, domination magic, and it's just not that way. That's just not how it works. It can work that way, but, like, that's not the end all be all of sex magic. So I don't know. It made me feel a way. How did you feel about that scene?
I didn't know that tassels swing around like that when you dance.
When they're talking, this woman is dancing on stage, doing a striptease
with tassels.
Yeah, she's in a full, like, very full, not
They helicoptered.
Yeah, she's in, like, an actually, like, full coverage dress, and then she slowly, like, takes a long time to take it off, actually. And then she has nipple tassels on.
And they helicoptered.
She's very skilled.
Okay, she did. I don't get how people don't get bored while doing stripteases.
I would get tired. Like, God, can I just take it off already?
Like I take off my clothes, and, like, if they're not off in, like, 5 seconds, like, I'm whipping my body parts around, like, get off, get off.
My clothes are either on or they're off. Like,
there's no in between unless it's my socks, and those sometimes hang off my feet.
Yep, exactly.
There's no in between.
After that whole conversation, if you're a witch, I would really like to hear all your thoughts about this scene. If you have them, if you've seen this movie, please let me know your thoughts about this. Am I just taking it too personally? I don't know. Let me know. We cut back to Elaine at home. She's getting ready for bed. She puts some witch's flying ointment on, and I would like to do a whole bonus about witch's flying ointment at some point, because there's a lot of, and like a full deep dive about flying and brooms, like a full, like, I want to write a fucking research paper, because I have seen a lot of conflicting statements about the flying ointment and the brooms and the astral travel and all of that. But in this scene, I'm pretty sure she's using it for sexual purposes, I think. And she's having flashbacks to when she was, like, inducted into the coven. And Gayan, he says to Elaine, hast thou the courage to make the essay? And Elaine says, I have 2 words, perfect love and perfect trust. And I wrote, that's 4 words. Are they? Is it not?
I mean, is it 4 words or is it 3 words? Is perfect counting as 2 words?
So yeah, she has that whole flashback scene of when she was inducted into the coven, and they do this whole thing where they stab her through the heart, but, like, there's a cup in between, and There's this whole thing. Then Shelley
Like,
Peters.
so it's like in Romeo and Juliet when they put the dagger in the armpit, kind
Well,
of.
they did you fast forward through that part?
Probably.
They put a cup over her like a chalice over her chest, and then they like take a knife and they stab the cup like where her heart would be, and everyone goes out ah, like they actually stabbed her,
It's like a fake
and then they
stab,
take the yeah, and then they take the cup away.
just like a dagger to the armpit.
Yeah, kind of, except there's not like any like not even a fake contact at all. And there's some other things that happen in the ritual, but honestly, I don't remember. They're all naked as well.
They were dancing.
Not in that scene. They were just standing around being naked. So yeah, Shelley Peters is the person that was with Wayne the day that Elaine called him over to her. Well, she didn't call him over to her. She was just staring at him and he came over. So Shelley Peters reports Wayne missing, which leads detectives to Wayne's house in the woods, and that's where they find Wayne buried. And then we cut to Richard, Trish's husband, having cake and dinner at Elaine's house. And he admits to Elaine that he has this fantasy to have an affair with a really wild woman. And she does a striptease dance. And then this is the part where she goes, I'm the love witch. I'm your wildest fantasy or whatever. So she says the movie title. And they're laughing and he's biting her ass and it's all great and fun and they're having a great time. Back at the what the fuck is that place called? The detective place? The police station. That's what it's called. Back at the police station, the detectives find out what Wayne died from, which was heart failure because of the Jimson weed.
And that's what he said, and I quote, a highly toxic hallucinogenic.
Yes. Then the detective, specifically Detective Meadows, who's like our main guy, meets with a professor of black magic and they start talking about solstices and such and witch bottles. And this professor says black witches, quote unquote, this is a quote, perform human sacrifices to this day. White witches or Wiccans have a strict law against doing harm against others. And then I wrote, is he saying that white witches and Wiccans are synonymous? Because that's another thing I would have a problem with.
Didn't they say Samhain incorrect?
I was kind of like zoning out when he was listing all of the celebrations, so they might have, I'm not sure. I remember hearing him say Litha and
I'm pretty sure he did say it incorrect, but it wasn't as incorrect as they say it in the audiobook that I'm listening to right now.
Samhain is the worst way you can say it.
That's how they're saying it in the audiobook.
Yeah, so I don't know. He might have said it wrong. I'm not sure, but and I just hate the term white witch. It just makes me feel so icky. And I have problems with this quote, but also could just be for the movie. We cut back to Richard, and now he's obsessed with Elaine.
Oh my God.
And he's drinking and crying and writing her letters. And he has some tarot cards on his desk, and it's the Nine of Swords, the Three of Swords. Remember, we don't like the Three of Swords, and the Devil on his desk. And the Nine of Swords is anxiety, and the Devil is about being changed to earthly desires such as sex. I do like how they use tarot in this movie because it was like pretty accurate. So detective. They call him Sergeant Meadows, but I'm gonna call him Detective Meadows because I don't know. That's just
what the hell was his first name?
Griff.
Cool. So Griff.
Yeah, Griff. Yeah, sure. Let's call him Griff. Griff goes to the apothecary metaphysical shop and finds out that Elaine supplies the witch bottles to the shop, and then he goes to Elaine to interrogate her. And she very easily charms him because he kind of like
he guilt trips him.
Yeah, she's like witchcraft saved my life and it's older than your Christianity, which they're both pretty old. I don't know, like yeah, that's debatable.
And then she said something about it being her religion and how he shouldn't be shaming her for her religion or something like that. And then like she did this thing with her eyes and then he did this thing with his eyes and I was like, oh, she got him.
Yeah. Yeah. Instantly he's all smiles and he looks so weird when he smiles to me.
Oh, it's
It's
very
so
Ken.
yes, it's so stiff. And then they go horseback riding, and he's like, "You're my girl for the day," and she's like, "Who gets to decide that?" And he's like, "What is that supposed to mean?" And she's like, "Nothing."
Well, they're also matching.
Oh yeah, they're matching. They're in matching horseback riding outfits, which I thought was kind of cute, actually.
I thought it was super weird.
I don't know. I don't know how riding outfits work because I'm not like some rich white person who goes horseback riding. No offense to my friends who horseback ride, because like not everyone who does that is a rich white person, but like he was. So,
Well, it was his friend's horse.
oh, okay, okay.
Well, they heard some music then.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out to be Elaine's friends in their Renaissance garb.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got married. Fake
Yeah.
married.
Mock married, yeah.
And they got rings. And see, up until this point, I still thought we were in the 1960s because
Oh,
Elaine hadn't pulled out her cell phone. So all of Elaine's friends were like, "You'll get married." And they were all giggling as they were changing them into Renaissance outfits. Super weird. Super weird. And then I don't remember what happened next, but flash forward to Trish and Elaine at the tea party. Trish and Elaine are talking, and Elaine's like, "I met a man. He's a
oh, we
good."
missed something.
What did we miss?
Richard.
I thought he died after.
Mm-mm. He he
Oh, you know
he
what? You right, because that's why they're out. Because Trish was mourning.
yeah,
She was
so
like,
like they
"I'll
get
kill that woman."
yeah, they so like after they get mock married, it cuts to the next day in the police station, and Meadows is like automatically like adamant about leaving the witches alone, and his partner's like, "Dude, evidence." And Meadows is like, "Dude, I said leave it alone." And he punches him. And then we find out that Jerry slit his wrists. We probably should have put a trigger warning in here.
Richard?
Richard slit his wrist. And we find out Jerry, her ex-husband, died of an OD shortly before he planned on remarrying. So that's suspicious.
Just a little bit.
And then we get to the tea scene where Trish says if she ever finds out who Richard killed himself over, she'll tear her to pieces. And Elaine has the smuggest look on her face. But she's like smiling. She's like,
And then she shows Trish her ring and she leaves on the table and she's like, "I gotta go."
mm-hmm.
And then Trish pulls out her cell phone and I'm just like, "What the fuck?" And that's when I looked up when the hell this movie took place. And I was fucking floored by that information, let me say.
And she's still wearing her wedding ring on the wrong hand. I'm just saying she's still wearing her wedding ring on the wrong hand. And it still bothers me. Trish brings Elaine her ring to her apartment, and then she starts
Oh
snooping
my
around
God.
in Elaine's apartment.
My fourth note, third
Mm-hmm.
note, fourth note. Super weird when Trish put on Elaine's clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So first
First
she
it
put
starts
on
with
her
the
lipstick,
lipstick.
which
Mm-hmm.
was just left out uncapped on her vanity. Ma'am,
Unsanitary.
yeah, it's going to collect dust.
Gross.
And then she went with the like
Eyeshadow.
eyeshadow and I think like blush and like wigs
And the falsies.
and the falsies. And she pulled out her lingerie.
Underwear.
She put on her underwear. And it wasn't a set of underwear that we'd seen Elaine wear at this point.
That's
And
true.
then Elaine walks in with a dagger or a knife.
No.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Keep going.
And then Trish turns around, sees her, and they start fighting to the death.
Elaine didn't have a knife.
Yes, she did. Let me just open up Peacock.
Something that Trish found before Elaine walked in. She sees all pictures of all the men Elaine's killed on her vanity, and she sees a picture of Richard. And then she found a paper that says love spell for Richard on it. So then she fucking freaks the fuck out even more when she sees Elaine. Oh, she knocks it out of her hand. That's why I don't remember it. Yeah, I totally forgot I mean, that makes sense. If I walked in and saw someone in my wig and my makeup, in my underwear. I don't know if I'd grab a knife, maybe a bludgeon.
I'd grab something.
I'd grab something. And I would also, I wouldn't grab a knife, but
I'd
I
probably
would
grab
definitely.
like an air horn and get like real up close behind them. Just scare the living shit out of them.
You just have an air horn at the ready.
I wish. My voice is good enough.
Yeah, I agree. I
Like
think you would be able to do a good air horn impression.
I think I'd just like let out a wail.
Mm. You could do your Ziggy voice. Your Ziggy. Yeah. Wait, do it again. Oh, Zoom doesn't pick it up.
What the fuck?
That sucks. This is another reason we need patrons so we can get you a good mic so everyone can hear your Ziggy impression.
Did you hear Ziggy at least?
No. Yeah, so Elaine and Trish have that whole fight. Elaine gets her off of her, and Trish has like the papers, like the picture and the paper that says love spell for Richard, like as evidence, I guess. And she's like, "You'll burn for this," and then she leaves.
Okay, but
Um,
a love spell doesn't mean she killed him.
literally, I like when she said that, I was like, "Girl, you don't have anything. I'm so sorry."
Like
um,
that means it was a love spell, not murder.
yeah, she doesn't have any proof. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Trish. And then when Trish leaves, um, Elaine goes to her vanity and she's like clutching her chest, or maybe she's clutching the knife to her chest, and she's like, crash, 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 die, die, die. Nothing happens to Trish that we know of.
What if, and I'm not trying to downplay witchcraft at all, but what if everything that happened with Richard was just a mere coincidence?
Could be. Imagine that.
I like how I was like, what if?
What if? What if he just had mental health issues?
Like us.
Suicidal people, they're just like you and me.
I like how I just like lifted my finger, my pinky, as I'm drinking my Mountain Dew out of a can.
So after Trish leaves Elaine's apartment, Elaine goes to her coven and she does a ritual about Meadows, like a love ritual. And she drinks something, she has his photo, and it's like a binding, kind of like a binding of the two of them together.
And everybody's naked.
Everybody's naked, yeah. And I just want to state for people who aren't witches that um coven activities are not always naked. Like I'm sure there are some covens out there that do naked rituals.
That's fine.
That's just not how every coven operates. I just want to put that out there. Just like it's okay if you use bodily fluids in your practice. Hey, that's fine. Just make sure you're being sanitary about it. Like don't share blood with other people. That's a health hazard.
I might ask, why is she so goddamn naked all the time? And I might say, and they were dancing around the woods naked like some weirdos. But my opinion doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Because what you do should not be affected by my opinion.
Yeah.
And I am here to say that because if you want to wear fucking heart-shaped glasses, go fucking wear them. And if you want to wear a Shrek outfit complete with a hat, a shirt, overalls, a sweater, tights, and socks, fucking do it. These are things that I do, and people are like, hey, why is she doing it?
What you do is nobody's business but your own.
Unless somebody else is involved in it.
Right. Consent and all that stuff. Use your common sense.
Use your common sense. Don't do anything illegal and get consent.
And be nice.
And be nice. Kiss a dog, maybe.
Yeah.
Or a cat. Or a bird. You do you.
The animal of your choice. Meadows then meets Elaine at the club. He has all the evidence and he's like, hey, so what's all this about? He's like, I am not charmed by all your shit. Like, I am not affected by your bullshit.
He's like, Elaine, god damn it.
Exactly.
I knew you were suspicious from the start, and you swooned me a little bit. but I'm not fooled by it no longer.
And she's like, how can you claim to be unaffected by love? And like, guys, those of you who haven't seen the movie, that's how she fucking talks, like the whole movie.
She really does.
And so like they go back and forth for just a little bit. Elaine has a mini monologue about how like love is affecting him actually. Um the patrons at the bar,
They find out she's a witch.
yeah, one of the waitresses is like, oh, that's the girl who murdered the guy. And then one of the guys says, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, which is a Bible quote. And then they all say, burn the witch, and they all try to attack her, and some of the guys are undoing their belts, and it's really gross and made me very uncomfortable actually. And it's actually a longer scene than I thought it was going to be. It was very uncomfortable. They all are tearing Elaine's clothes off, and Meadows is trying to get to her. They're trying to drag him away, but he does get to her eventually and saves her, drives her home. So I hated that scene. That scene made me so fucking uncomfortable. Meadows is sitting on the edge of her bed. He has a huge bruise on the side of his face, and she's dabbing at it, and she goes, poor, poor baby. And he swats her hand away. He looks at her, and he's not having it. And then she freaks out, and we're like, at first we don't know why she's freaking out, and then she backs away, and then the camera cuts back to him, and she's seeing Meadows as like a skull, like his face is a skull.
Oh yeah, that was super fucking weird.
Yeah, the effects aren't great. um I wouldn't even go as far to say that they were effects. I think it was a mannequin or something.
It was like they copied a skull, the image of a skull, and pasted it. I need to share this.
Mm-hmm.
Photoshop can be used to edit video, not just photos. Let me tell you, they photoshopped a skull onto the top layer of this film. And it was not a good Photoshop job. I bet you this whole thing was edited using Photoshop.
No. There are some really
Yes.
good aesthetic moments. Really good aesthetic moments, especially in all the parts with Wayne where he's tripping and they're doing their whole thing. Like, I think the glittering and there's a lot of parts where it's glittery and
I didn't
there's
say you,
rainbows.
I didn't say you can't do a good job with Photoshop on film. But I'm saying this was a direct copy paste.
So she sees the skull, and then she like stops freaking out for a second. And then she starts seeing the ghosts of Wayne. He's like, I love you, Elaine. And then she sees the ghost of Richard, and he's like, I love you, Elaine. And then she sees the ghost of Jerry, and Jerry's like, I love you, Elaine. And then she's like, content. And then she sees that Meadows has laid back on the bed, assumedly so that she can pleasure him. But instead, she grabs a knife and
Look at her painting.
she looks at her painting. And this painting she's been working on throughout the movie. It's a painting of a woman next to a man, and he has his chest cut open, and she's holding his heart, and she has the knife in the other hand.
And it's bloody.
Yeah, it's bloody. And she looks at her painting, and then she looks down at Meadows, and then she stabs the fuck out of him.
Mm-hmm.
Almost, it feels almost kind of sudden, but like we knew this was coming.
I will say it was very sudden because I missed it and I was like, oh.
And then after she stabs the fuck out of him, she kind of sits back, and then she's like smiling to herself, and then she's having this fantasy montage of her and Meadows like getting married for realsies in the Ren Fair, and she gets up on the horse and he leads the horse away, and it's like a happy fairy tale ending. And then it's the end.
The titles roll.
I gave it like, I think 2.5 stars out of 5 on Letterboxd. And at first, like, I knew this movie was trying to say something deeper, and I knew I wasn't getting it, so I had to look up some reviews, and I want to read some stuff from that. But like, first, what were your thoughts? Is like, when the movie ended, like, what were you sitting there thinking?
All right.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Some horror movie this is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so funny.
God, not funny at all. When I saw that, like, okay, like ages ago, when I heard of The Love Witch and I saw it was billed as a horror comedy, I was so excited because I love horror and I love horror comedies.
Like Tusk.
Tusk is not funny. The fact that I watched Tusk is fucking hilarious.
Tony still won't watch it.
You don't, Tony doesn't have to watch it. You can watch it.
I don't want to watch it alone.
We will watch it. I will watch it with you. I don't think you should watch it, but if you want to watch it, I will watch it with you. If you want to listen to Kaya's thoughts about Tusk, we will do a bonus episode on that eventually on the Patreon. Because then Kaya can say to Tony that it's for work.
That's right.
So the Love Witch does have like a deeper meaning, a deeper message. And I'm going to read some parts from two articles that I found, and then I want to read some words from my friend Stevie, Graveyard Moth on Twitch, that she sent to me. And also, I will be citing these articles in the show notes. So the first one, aware of the lackluster representation of women in film, Biller deconstructs one of the most notorious female tropes, that of the femme fatale. Elaine Parks, the eponymous Love Witch, is the personification of a 1960s man's worst nightmare, a thinking, feeling, financially secure, and independent woman. She pursues her male romantic interests without hesitancy, despite the morals of the time, and plays into the male-conceived ideas of women while remaining a victim of their ideology. Elaine acts as both a protagonist and a horror movie villain, with a depth rarely afforded to female characters. Her heart and her desires formulate the film's central story and themes without being depicted as a particularly insidious or barbaric character. She is a female horror movie villain without becoming a dehumanized monstrosity. Biller purposely forces the audience to feel ashamed or vulgar for intruding on her, rather than sexually satisfied. The sexual element isn't for the pleasure of the viewer, but a necessary plot point that seeks to question and deconstruct the male way of filmmaking. Biller is aware that audiences, especially male ones, find female villains rather disturbing. A female villain who embraces and utilizes her sexuality without shame and to the detriment of male characters trespasses into the taboo. This is the female gaze in action, both as criticism of the male gaze and its refusal to accommodate male audiences. So there's that. There's that take.
I would agree with that.
I do appreciate that they don't say that she's like a likable character, because I personally don't really find Elaine likable. But she also isn't like a monstrosity the way most horror villains are.
Right.
And this other article points out a really good point. It says, while she twists herself to fit a certain feminine ideal, she despises men she doesn't see as properly masculine. If she has to play the trophy wife, then he has to play the trophy husband. Equality, right? Elaine wants a manly man, someone who'll be fascinated by her womanly charms, but remain strong, silent type, pay no attention to her needs, and generally treat her as a possession. But Elaine's self-objectification does not bring her the happiness she craves. Although she satisfies these men's primal urges for sex, when they demand an emotional bond with her, as she once did from her husband, she is disappointed. It's clear, of course, that love is not really what she's looking for. She's more interested in power, exploitation, and revenge.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with the fact that she's not really looking for love and that she's looking for power, exploitation, and revenge. She's looking for a man for one reason or another, but I think other than that, she doesn't really know what she's looking for. She's kind of lost.
Yeah, I agree with that. This author's point is that, like, you know, when she meets Wayne and he gets over emotional, like at some point in the movie, she's like, oh, he was just like a woman. And then Richard gets too clingy, and so she says something about that. And then she finally is with Meadows, and at the end of the movie, he treats her in a manly, like stereotypically manly way. It says he tosses her goblet of potion away and just stares into her eyes. This is what she wanted, a man with no care for her needs or emotion towards her. He lays on the bed, presumably expecting her to pleasure him, and she realized that she had all she had ever really wanted from her previous lovers, devotion. With that, she takes a dagger and stabs Griff in the heart several times. Her first truly intended kill. With him dead, her fantasy of him, the perfect, devoted husband, lives on, but only in her head. The only place he could ever really be found. So, like, once she finally got substantially manly, quote unquote, husband, she, like, I don't know, didn't know how to handle it and snapped? I don't know.
Or realized that that's not what she really wanted.
Yeah.
That's what she thought she wanted.
And,
And she was
like,
like, oops, take backsies.
yeah. Was mad that she killed the ones that actually liked her.
Just trying to make her be accountable. And I feel like when he was not swindled by her love,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he was actually he was a pretty decent character because he was able to get out of her like trance. Can we agree on that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he would for sure was out of her trance by the time he came back to the club.
Right. And he was looking to hold her accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's probably, arguably, one of the best characters in this movie because we can't blame him for being in her trance. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not his fault. She just did her little games.
My problem with Meadows lies in like how he was with like, for example, like with the female officer in like before he ever met Elaine. Like
That's
that's who he really is, and like I don't like that.
that's fair. I forgot about that.
But like he did save Elaine, and like that's what any decent human would do. So like I'm not gonna give him too many brownie points for that, but he did save Elaine. So like
He has flaws.
given the competition in the movie for best character, he probably is the best one, I suppose. Because like I said, I don't really like a lot of people in this movie, to be honest.
It's like between him and helicopter tassels.
Helicopter tassels and metaphysical shop owner are the best characters.
I would agree with that. Helicopter
So
tassels taught me something because I did not know tassels could go like that.
so my friend Stevie is the one who suggested this movie, and I was like, hey, so like what are your thoughts on this movie? Because like I just finished it and I'm not sure how I feel about it. So Stevie said, I personally love what the Love Witch says to me about the fear of feminine energy. Elaine uses her sexuality and understanding of men's carnal desires to get what she wants, a subconscious fear a lot of men tend to believe all women possess the capacity for. Even amongst the coven who took her in, she's super aware of men who exert power over women, even as they use language and spiritual practices that pretend to revere women. See Gayan. I hate him. Elaine herself is the villainous woman that men imagine and fantasize about, whom they lust for and also simultaneously hate, using feminine charm, or in the movie witchcraft, to break down their barriers and then toying with them until she gets bored and destroys them. She's so obsessed with finding a perfect, passionate love, but often ends up disappointed with the reality of men. In a scene towards the end, when the men in the club find out what she's done, many of them attempt to sexually assault her as the way of subjugation, reflecting our reality in the way that men who hate women will try to punish women for their quote-unquote crimes through physical acts like rape. They desire and hate her, and their chosen punishment is sexual violence. I'm sure there are other themes to this movie I missed, but the big one I noticed when watching it is this. Elaine is a physical depiction of the type of femininity that the patriarchy hates and justifies hating. She's narcissistic and cunning, like they feel all women or witches are capable of being. Oh, this was a good point too. I think I was noticing all the ways femininity witchcraft was to blame for all the woes of men. Like in the scene where Elaine seduces Richard, she had to use magic to do it, because certainly no happily married man would willingly cheat on his wife without the assistance of magic to turn his heart astray. And then suddenly he's sharing all of his secret hidden boyhood fantasies. But a man would never do that unless he had been tempted by an enchantress first.
Bullshit.
Exactly. So I think Stevie wins for best review.
Something that I wanted to, there were two things, and I can only remember one of them, touch on was that Gayan said something to Elaine, and he said that love magic can be unpredictable, and he encouraged her not to use it.
That's true. I thought what Stevie said about the whole, like, the framing is that, like, it's blaming witchcraft and femininity via the witchcraft for the woes of men, via, like, in the example of Richard cheating on his wife, because otherwise Richard never would have done that, because a happily married man would never do that, because
Well, remember what I said. Everything that happened between Lane and Richard could have been a mere coincidence.
as could everything. But that's just the thing. That's just the thing, is that they're using witchcraft to blame Elaine for what happened to Richard.
We know she gave Wayne the drink.
That's true.
We know she killed Griff.
Yeah.
We have no evidence that she used any kind of witchcraft on Richard.
Well, we have the paper that says love spell for Richard.
I mean, that just says that she wrote it down on paper. It doesn't mean she actually did it, though.
That's true. We didn't see her do anything.
We did not see her doing that magic.
That's true.
Have intended to do it, but when Richard started acting out on his own, and maybe it was planned that way because of what we were just saying, because there's no way that Richard would have acted out unless it would be for witchcraft. But there's no proof of any actual witchcraft going on there.
Yeah.
And maybe the reason that they did that is because of this symbolism, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
Because we have proof of this and we have proof of that, but we don't have proof of the cream in the middle of that Oreo.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. But when I think about, because like this movie is very much touted as a feminist movie. And so when I saw that after I initially watched it, I was like, I don't get it. I think I need to watch it again, knowing what I know now about the filmmaker's intent with this movie. And maybe I will have some fresh takes on it. I don't know.
It was a weird movie.
I'm glad it was made. Regardless of the whole message about feminism or whatever, like if you just take it for what it is at very face value, like I think it was an all right movie, and I'm glad that it was made. I think it was very much eye candy. I think it was a beautiful movie. Except for the part where Meadows's head turns into a skull. I thought that looked really bad.
If it was made in the 60s, that would have been groundbreaking special effects.
I saw somewhere that they shot it on like certain millimeter film. I'm opening the Letterboxd app because I saw a review on there that was very funny that I related to quite a bit. This review on Letterboxd by Indie of The Love Witch. They have a couple bullet points, and the first one was in all caps. It says, "This was too damn long," which I agree with. The second bullet point is, "I honest to God love the entire vibe and aesthetic so much, and the production design and the costuming and the cinematography were all beyond glorious, but after 2 hours, the, forgive me, magic was truly wearing off, and it cheapened the beautiful, cloying mood," which I also agree with. The Renaissance Fair gave me secondhand embarrassment and hives. Goodbye. I never want to see wooden sword fighting like that ever again. Personally, I don't totally feel that way, but I thought that made me laugh. But I'm also like a nerd, so I probably give people secondhand embarrassment by calling myself a witch. Oh yeah, 35 millimeter film. The review that I wrote on Letterboxd just says, "Trish wore her wedding ring on the wrong hand, not once but twice. Anyway, I'm obsessed with Samantha Robinson. Go off, queen." I'm still upset about the, like, why couldn't they just have her wear it on her left hand? Why?
What if she's from a different culture?
She's British.
What hand do they wear it on in Britain?
What? The left one.
Do they?
I will Google it right now, and I'm sure nothing will come up because you know what? I have no words. What hand do they wear the wedding ring on in England? The left hand.
I would have
In
screamed if it was the right.
in most Western cultures, particularly in the UK, it says, you would wear your wedding ring on the fourth finger of your left hand. This is otherwise known as your ring finger and also the place where you wear your engagement ring.
I would have screamed.
I would have also I would have died on the spot of embarrassment.
You'd been like, we're editing that out.
There is no universe where I'm wrong. There's only the universe where I'm right. Oh God. So yeah, that's The Love Witch.
Go watch it. It's on Peacock.
Yeah, I would encourage you to watch it if you haven't seen it. I think it's
I
an
would say
experience.
don't let your children watch it.
Don't let your children watch it. Put it on while you're doing laundry or something.
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't sit and watch it. That's boring, to be honest.
I would say that's fair.
It's not horrific and it's not funny. So, but it is pretty. And I love Samantha Robinson. I love her campy ass acting. It's so silly.
And we love her Technicolor dream coat.
Yes, we love her rainbow coat. I was gonna say, I want her to give the rainbow to me, but like, I don't want to be drugged by Jimson weed and then die.
A heart attack.
No, yeah, no, thank you. Anyway, thank you for listening to the Movie Witch podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
You can find us on social media at the Movie Witch Pod, right?
It's at Movie Witch Pod and at Movie Witch Podcast.
There we go.
Let us know what you think by leaving a review. If you like what you heard and want to help us grow and improve, please consider supporting us on Patreon for $2 or $7 a month.
Then you might be able to hear Ziggy sing.
Yeah, there was a lot of juicy gossip that you didn't hear if you weren't a Patreon, so that's your loss. And also Ziggy for the last 15 minutes has been snuggled up on Kaija in the cutest way. So you're also missing that. So sorry for that.
He's being a genuine bona fide baby right now. This is what I live for. I love having a small dog because he can snuggle up on me while I'm at the literal kitchen table. He's also wearing a tie-dye shirt because he's a baby.
Oh my God. Our Patreon benefits include, like we said, video versions of the episode. You also get the episodes a week early. The video versions are unedited, which means, like I said, you get the juicy gossip and the dickies and the Delphine and Eugene. And you also get exclusive Patreon bonus episodes, which we need your help deciding on what to talk about. So if you become a patron, we can decide what to talk about. So there you go.
Feel warm within your heart knowing that you're supporting your friends.
Yes, your besties.
I hate internet slang, but we're not going to let that stop me.
What, besties?
Ugh, it's all of them. It's all of them.
I love the word besties.
It used to be selfie, but right now it's stan.
Oh, I don't like the word stan.
Behind, everything behind stan is the origin.
Let's end the episode and then talk about this more because we're nearing the 2-hour mark. Okay, that was it, I think. Okay, bye witches.
Love you. Bye witches.